behalf of AISC, I appreciate the interest and look forward to working with the department in any capacity where we can be of assistance. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much. We have our next speaker, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Bell, and I'm president of the Steel Manufacturers Association, also known as the SMA. I would like to thank Secretary Ross and the panel for the opportunity to share ideas with you this afternoon regarding the Department's Section 232 investigation into the national security effects of imported steel. On a personal note, I would also like to thank Secretary Ross for taking time out of his busy schedule to address the members of both the Steel Manufacturers Association and the American Iron and Steel Institute at our annual members conference. The SMA is a Washington, D.C. based trade association that is the voice of steelmakers that rely on the electric arc furnace, or EAF, steelmaking technology, which is the dominant steelmaking technology used in America. SMA's membership contains a variety of EAF steel producers, including some of the nation's largest steelmakers and employers, such as Nucor, Steel Dynamics, Gerdau, Commercial Metals, and Charter Manufacturing. As 21st century steelmakers, our members utilize post-consumer recycled ferrous scrap in their principal feedstock, turning this waste into world-class steel. SMA members account for over 75% of domestic steelmaking capacity and directly employ more than 60,000 workers in 43 states and 125 congressional districts. It is imperative to our national security that the United States have a strong, viable domestic steel industry with sufficient productive capacity to meet both defense and commercial needs. We cannot rely on foreign steel producers to arm and protect our military forces and to rebuild and maintain our nation's critical infrastructure. Steel is vital to our national defense, but beyond direct defense applications, steel is the engine of economic activity and employment that is of critical importance to the United States. Imports of steel, quite simply, present an existential threat to the American steel industry. The volumes of imported steel today have impaired demand for U.S.-produced steel, forced reductions in domestic production, and diminished return on capital investments. U.S. steelmaking production capacity utilization has hovered under 75% for many years. We believe that capacity utilization of 85% or higher is necessary to allow steelmakers to ensure a reasonable return on capital employed, operate at full employment levels, make necessary capital investments, invest in research and development, and also efficiently operate the hot end, or the melted and poured part of steelmaking, as well as the cold end, the finishing part of steelmaking. Even after the 1999 to 2001 steel crisis, capacity utilization levels rebounded back to that 85% threshold. The ability of SMA's members to meet episodic national defense requirements and to improve and make capital investments for tomorrow depends entirely on today's demand for their U.S.-produced steel. SMA members are the safest, most productive, and most sustainable steel makers in the world, and we can compete with anyone on a level playing field. The United States also has the world's most open markets, and the SMA supports free and fair trade. The same openness, however, should not be extended to illegally traded, dumped, and subsidized steel. Over the last decade, global steelmaking capacity has grown at an unprecedented rate. The world's steel consumption, however, has not kept pace, contributing to a large and increasing gap between global capacity and demand. The effects of global overcapacity have been, quite simply, to flood the U.S. market, typically unlawfully, with imported steel. Import market penetration has come as a great price to the U.S. steel industry and the U.S. economy. From January 2015 to the end of 2016, the steel industry employment has declined by 14,400 workers. As the domestic steel industry has been weakened, tax revenues have been lost, and our national security has been impaired. Based on research done by Georgetown Economic Services, using an estimated nationwide average annual steelworker income of $61,465, The SMA estimates that the U.S. federal government has foregone an average of $13,000 in federal income tax for each steel worker. For each 1.5 million tons of steel imported into the United States, the federal government will forego an estimated $9 million in tax revenue. As applied to job losses since 2015, this is estimated to be $190 million. SMA commends the diplomatic efforts to reduce global steel production. And while the United States may need to act unilaterally to ensure that its steel producers, workers, and customers are not driven out of business by unfairly traded imports, it is our hope that like-minded countries can join with us in our support of free and fair trade and the rule of law. We also hope that the 232 process will serve as a catalyst to explore creative and meaningful remedies that will deal with underselling, overcapacity, and other market distortions that impact our entire steel supply chain. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. Next speaker, please.